Okay, so here we are. Let me kind of set the stage real quick before we dive into this topic, so that everybody's kind of clued in. We are living right now in a world, and I think, and I am very, very confidently going to blame social media for this.
Confidently.
Quite confidently.
Yeah. You think?
You think just a little bit. So we are living in a world that's become very toxic, specifically when it comes to conversations regarding movies. I think it's sort of the beginning of it was this tension between Marvel and DCEU fans when the DCEU started kind of coming up, because could sort of start seeing was it before that?
The world of DC, they're called now, by the way. Just
Well, yeah.
Gotta get it right.
Yeah, now it's called the world of DC.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was kind of where it started popping up, and then what really kind of tipped the iceberg over and sank the Titanic and exploded Vesuvius was The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
That's where crap really hit the fan, and it just became extremely toxic to the point where, and this is why I'm super happy that Bailey is in on this conversation, because I follow his channel on YouTube, so I've seen a lot of his videos and I've seen his reviews, and my lord, did he and Jay get some of the worst attacks I have ever read on YouTube. I mean, literally there were some people literally giving them death threats. I mean, that's how bad it got. So, Bailey, I think this is where you need to kind of jump in and tell us the perspective from your end.
Well, I was just having like flashbacks because I completely forgot how bad it was when, because for a long time I was gearing up to do a big analysis video on The Last Jedi. And I kept getting turned off doing it because, like, it's so heavily scrutinized that, like, it was impossible for me to find any way to talk about it without having someone be able to counter. I'm wanting to talk about stuff I love in the movie, and there was no way for me to be able to say anything without someone being able to counter it. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of remembering now. It's like, no, I did review the movie, and that was a bit of a nightmare, that process, because basically, you've said already that like social media has kind of spread this thing, but there's almost like that kind of thing in that with guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Yeah.
And I think people have always inherently had this kind of thing in them. I think this toxicity comes from the fact that, look, I'm going to give like an example of a situation I was in recently that wasn't film related, but it completely displays what we're talking about. I was at the front row of a Kendrick Lamar concert recently, and he hadn't come out yet, and there was a bunch of us all just standing there talking about albums. But we weren't talking about albums. It was, what do you guys think of the new album by, say, Drake? And everyone would go, oh, I love it. Oh, I hate it. Oh, I love it. Oh, I hate it. And then we'd mention, another artist. And say, I love it. I hate it. I love it. I hate it. And there was no middle ground. There was never any. And the reason that is because people in the online way of communicating, there's so much hyperbole that no one really sits in a middle ground anymore. Even if you walk out of a movie now and you feel mixed on it, because of so many other opinions happening online and so many media outlets getting so much traction from it's either the worst thing ever or the best thing ever, you kind of get pulled in one direction or the other, where the middle ground just seems to have fallen away. So where the toxic discussion from movies, I think, comes from is the fact that there's so little middle ground anymore in the conversation with movies that you end up with basically almost two factions on every movie. There's people who love it or people that hate it. And you can never really have a constructive conversation when people are like, it's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. So I don't know if you guys have followed what I'm getting at there, but I think this is where it's come from, is the fact that online, to be heard, people want to tweet out something about a movie, but no one cares if you say, hey, I thought the movie was okay. People are going to sit up and pay attention if you say you love it or you hate it. And I think that's what's really spawned a lot of the way people, film journalists is a different thing going on, because we're just trying to get our stuff read. We just want to get our stuff read. We want to get it seen, whatever. But people out online discussing the stuff, it's all just so much hyperbole, and that fuels a really toxic environment when people can only talk about loving or hating things. There's just no middle ground. So that's what I've kind of seen, and I think that's where so much of it comes from. And I don't really know how to get the middle ground back. I don't know. That's the question. Where do we get that kind of get people to pay attention to the middle ground?
Yeah. So Youmna, Clint, have you witnessed? I don't know if you've had some of the hate, but have you kind of seen what has been happening? Are you clued into the toxicity that's around? Or?
Well, I mean, for me, being not only just in, watching movies, also being in the music business as well, because the music business is also quite tied to the music industry anyway. To the movie industry. But from what I gather, I mean, maybe I'm saying something wrong here, and if I'm going to annoy anyone, I'm sorry, but a lot of people don't have their own opinions. Basically, they will look at someone as a critic or someone who has an opinion, and they'll say, oh, I'm going to say the same thing as him, because they feel that maybe it's something right, or maybe they feel that, this is politically correct in some way. You know what I mean? Especially nowadays, you can't say something bad about a movie because all of a sudden you might be racist, or you might be sexist or something. This is the movie industry that we're in now. And plus, as you were saying before, it all comes down to social media. Yeah. Straight away, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram,
YouTube, Twitter.
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, even if you go on trailers and that kind of stuff, it's either going to be literally from one extreme to the other. It's either going to be really, really good, or it's going to be extremely, extremely bad.
Yes.
Usually when it's bad, it's always bad language and just people throwing in hate lines and stuff. So that's pretty much what I've experienced.
Youmna?
I mean, I will, if I think a movie is just okay, I will say it. But I don't think it's funny that you mentioned toxicity when it comes to movies. I think it's toxicity when it comes to everything today.
Yeah.
Whether it comes to, so I'm in news, right? So I know when it comes to politics, the world is literally divided into a million factions. And I'm American, so you can imagine the conversations we have. But
I got you.
I think, with movies and the haters, social media makes it easier because, like, I heard somebody said that once. It's just easier to just hate on something when you're behind a computer screen. It'd be very different if you were having a face-to-face talk.
Yeah.
But it's like
people cannot keep it up face-to-face.
I know they can't, but like, but for example,
they cannot keep it up.
All of us together here, right? If, and I remember having one of my first conversations with Alan is, I think we disagreed on a movie, but it wasn't like he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him. It was just like, no, Alan, I don't think, I do think so. No, I don't. Okay, fine. You know what? Let's just go have a burger and,
let's agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree.
I think it's just common sense. Now, if some people, want to use hate for it or, they get very aggressive, then it says more about them than it does about your review or the movie. So go ahead, Bailey. You do your review. So did you like The Last Jedi or not? I never figured that out.
Oh, no. So let's make that clear. I love The Last Jedi to the point that, like,
me too.
It's not that I wouldn't say it's the best Star Wars movie. I think Empire still has that throne no matter what. But
no one touches Empire.
Nobody can top Empire. Like,
guys,
that's.
Well, I'll say
I love The Last Jedi.
9,
it tops
like
Empire.
Episode 9's going to get the right balance. I think there's no way they're going to get it wrong with Episode 9. There's too much at stake for them to get it wrong. So anyway, but the thing is, with The Last Jedi, I don't necessarily like all of it. There's a lot of stuff in that movie where I'm like, what? Why is that in there? But I've never found in my life, there's never been a movie for me that I've found more fascinating than The Last Jedi to discuss. I mean, we've had our Batman vs. Superman, which I think is pretty confidently, we can all say that probably leans towards more the bad spectrum than the good, but it's still a fascinating movie to discuss because there's so much about people seeing it so differently. Like, it's not like a Transformers movie where most of us watch a Transformers movie and go, that's trash. With Batman vs. Superman, there's like a thing of like, when you actually think about stuff, you're like, hey, there's actual creative decisions there that are not being done anywhere else. Should I respect the movie for doing some of these things, even though they don't work? And I think The Last Jedi does that as well, obviously, for me at least, to a much more successful degree. But yeah, with The Last Jedi, it's like, I love the movie. I don't love everything about it. And the unfortunate thing is being a fan of it, people assume that instantly means you love everything about it and you have no issues with it. It's like, I have a ton of issues with that movie. I just find it endlessly fascinating and I could watch it over and over and over again. I've got to think there's very few movies nowadays that fall into that divisive field where people are really kind of split. I mean, usually you always have people that like a movie and don't like a movie, but there's these movies that we're getting recently, particularly like big franchise movies, like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was probably in the same field. People either loved it or hated it, I feel. And so stuff like that I find so fascinating. But
Yeah,
that's
but
where the
it's becoming
toxicity
so
kind of gets out of
polarized
control.
now. Like it's becoming. You're right. Like these films, like these big franchise films, have become so polarized. It's like you're
Because
either
the
on
more
the.
of them you get,
But
the more of them you
it's the
get, the
state
more
of our
franchise
world
films
more
you get.
than, specifically movies. It's just
Yeah, it's just the
whatever
way it is
topic,
now. It's like, yeah.
exactly whatever topic you pick, it's just polarized. I
It's
feel.
polarized.
Yeah, that's
So
all.
I mean, like for me, and had and I have had this discussion. It's like
Yeah.
I love The Last Jedi. I saw it 5 times in the movie theater. I still watch it to this day. But I have huge issues with it on the grander storytelling scheme. For me, it, and I think that'll all come to what happens in episode 9 at this point. But for me, like I love the film. I saw it 5 times. I still watch it. I love the soundtrack, but I have massive issues with it on a macro level. So to shift the conversation towards, we've kind of discussed the toxicity. What do you think? Is there a solution? Like, is there a way out of this? Is there a way to kind of deter the conversation? I mean, Bailey's already, I think, doing one thing that's really cool, which is the idea behind today's episode, which is why we love movies. You know, his Why I Love series, I think that is one way of kind of deterring the conversation, changing its direction. Had and I have a new segment on our Friday shows, which is now called Second Chance. And it's where one of us has to convince the other to give a film that the other hated to give it a second chance, and we have to sit there and try to convince. So I'm gonna tease one. So like the one, it's gonna come up in a later episode, and I barely let him talk. I barely let him rebuttal.
I had like 30 seconds.
He had 30 seconds to rebuttal why I wanted him to give that film a second chance, and it was Man of Steel, which is Zack Snyder's take on Superman. And the first time I saw it, I absolutely abhorred it. I hated every single moment in that film. And then a couple of months, like a month ago, I watched it again. And there were 2 scenes in that film I was tearing up. Like, I was like, how is this film making me feel things right now? So that was kind of the birth of the Second Chance segment. So what else do you guys think? Bailey, if you have something else aside from the Why I Love, please pitch in as well.
But is it like a movie that people love that you hate?
No.
Like
So let's for the Second Chance segment, you mean?
Yeah.
So let's say I hated or Had hated Man of Steel. I have to convince him to give the film a second chance
To watch it
and
again
why.
and see what I like.
So the point of it is to be more positive about films and not negative. So
Absolutely.
how do you think the toxicity? Is there a solution to this?
I think there is one main issue with toxicity. It's okay not to like something. It's okay not to like a movie, not to enjoy it. But it's the way you talk about the movie. It's the way whenever I review a film, it's my opinion. It doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. People's opinions differ. And at the end of every single review, I always say, go watch the movie and tell me what you think. I'll never tell someone, don't go watch this film. That's the whole point. It's fine. There are movies you like. And we've had this conversation that you like and I don't, and vice versa. And I'm sure with
Although
Clint
they are very few.
and with Youmna, but I'm sure they exist because we've lived different experiences. We like different things, and it's okay not to like something. But again, talk about it in a constructive way. Have a conversation.
I think to add to what he's saying is basically, there's always going to be hate, and there's always going to be people who don't like what you say, no matter what you do. No matter how you write it, because you rub them the wrong way. But it says more about what they're going through than it does what you. So I think if you just focus on what you're doing, and you brush that on the side, and I know it's difficult, Bailey, especially when the work is public, but I don't think it's something that's going to go away. I think it's how you deal with it that's really going to determine how things progress. And I think people need to be able to just take a step back and really brush all that hate aside, because there's so much of it on social media. It's unbelievable.
Definitely got to learn to kind of definitely brush it off. But I think there's also a thing where I think is so much of. I mean, I work in the YouTube field mainly, so I'm basically looking at YouTube, and so much content that's getting put out is I hate this stuff. 10 things I hate about, 10 things wrong with, everything wrong with. So I think, and there's no content. I was looking up, I was not seeing any content that said, I love, there's been a small movement now to start pushing back that way. And I'd like to think I'm part of this first kind of wave that's pushing back against it. But I think it's also a case of making sure that, for people that are journalists and people that are putting out content or putting the stuff that we're reading and seeing out, the conversations out into public for people to read, I think we have a responsibility to know that, yes, anger evokes a strong reaction. So anger is the strongest reaction we can evoke online. Outrage gets stuff to trend. The news has been doing this for years. That's why it's so popular. But I think people really connect to someone saying, hi, I love something, and talking about it. So I think we have a responsibility to be able to put stuff back, put content out there in whatever form it may be, that's inspiring people to get excited and passionate about things beyond anger. Because I see so much stuff that gets put out where it's all about, share your unpopular opinion, or share just, for reasons for people to fight, pretty much. And I think, we have a responsibility as people, putting content out there to bring the conversation back so there's a bit more of an equal footing. So there's a bit more kind of appreciation, a bit more love and that kind of thing, just to balance it out. Because I think people are surprised when they watch, say one of my videos and it's a positive, it's positive content, and they're used to watching stuff that's, 100 things I hate about The Last Jedi, and they watch my video and it's, I love The Last Jedi, here's why. So I think we have a responsibility to put stuff out that kind of level the playing field almost.
Yeah,
I think that'll do that. Could. I mean,
it's interesting that he says that, because I will never click on,
the I hate
10
stuff.
reasons I hate.
Yeah.
I will never do that. I actually will always, and Bailey, I'm just going to disagree with you on this thing, because I think when you look for it out, it's very much there. The 10 reasons why we love, the top 10 reasons this is great. Like, you have a lot of positivity. You just have to, it's easier to focus on the negative because it's there and because it's louder. But when you look for the positive, you my God, a lot of people and a lot of journalists and a lot of movie reviewers and movie critics are putting that out there, whether it's press, print, online, or on YouTube. So it is there.
Yeah.
But you got to choose to see it.
You have to find it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the way social media's algorithms work, you're only going to end up seeing the easier stuff that you're going to access are the most popular, which tend to be the hateful stuff. Clint, you've been.
I'm not saying it's not there. It's just buried. So much of it just gets instantly buried because it's not controversial. I mean,
exactly.
If you're like your base search is you just type in the name of a movie. So say you just type in. Let's go back to type in The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
the top 20, 25 things are going to pop up are all going to be on ripping it to pieces.
Yeah, basically.
You've really got to dig to find the good stuff. So I'm not saying it's not there. It's just not in. It's not the first thing that's getting.
Yeah, it's not in your face.
Viewers who are viewers who are wanting to take other people's opinions as opposed to making your own, as Pat said.
Right.
So that's the first stuff that people are seeing, I guess. So yeah.
Clint, any 2 cents?
No, I mean, you guys have pretty much covered pretty much everything. I mean, I think it just comes down to people just having an opinion, man. That's it.
Yeah.
Watching a movie and deciding if you like it or not. You know, I mean, in the end, it's a movie. It's there to entertain you. So, I mean, whether you like it or not, you put it online, you do whatever. But, I think things should be just done in, I'm not going to say a proper way, because in the end, everyone has a right to say what they want. You know what I mean? So that's it. I'm just going to top it off with that.
Well, awesome. So here's what we're going to do, because I really didn't want to cut off this conversation and go to a musical break. So we're just going to end the episode with the final track. In a couple of minutes, we're going to end the episode with the final track, which is from Oblivion, and it was Clint's recommendation for a track, M83, Oblivion. The Time of My Life, which was the earlier track that we heard, was recommended by Youmna, and then The Leftovers, depressing, but a gorgeous track regardless. It's such a gorgeous track, was Bailey's option. So we have a thing on Script2Screen where we do a recommendation. So we recommend, normally Hadi recommends something, I recommend something, but this time I wanted to open it up to everybody recommending. So I'm going to jump in and say mine real quick. So my recommendation for this week is going to be a TV series which was recently saved by Amazon after it was stupidly canceled off of Sci-Fi, and it's called The Expanse. It's based on a book series. It's probably some of the best sci-fi I've ever seen since Battlestar Galactica. It's super good, super politically infused. It's a lot of fun. I'm almost done with season 3, and I can't wait for season 4. Bailey?
I'm going to recommend, it's coming back soon. It's coming back for its 5th season, BoJack Horseman on Netflix. Weird thing, because it's an animated show where animals are just integrated into human society. But it's a show that's very much about the stuff we go through as much as you guys are joking about me being the youngest person here, I am an adult as well. As being adults and that kind of trying to find your place in the world, and it's all kind of set in the media industry. So it's interesting from that perspective, but it's just a really, really very, very deeply interesting show with just amazing emotional moments of just trying to find your place in the world.
Okay.
Kind of being a fish out of the water. And it's just, a massive recommendation. It's weird at the start. That's what I thought. And I just kept watching because Netflix, it just keeps offering up more episodes. And eventually I watched 4 seasons in the space of 2-3 weeks. So
cool.
It's definitely, it's a must-see.
Okay. Clint?
I'm going to go with the Evil Dead trilogy just because I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always have been. And I do suggest that you watch, there was the TV show Ash vs. Evil, Ash vs. Evil Dead. The first episode was directed by Sam Raimi.
Okay.
So when you watch that first episode, you see the whole thing with the practical effects and everything. This is why I love Sam Raimi, because while he does use CGI, his practical effects and his slapstick jokes are insane. So I will go with Evil Dead, definitely.
Had?
I'm going to quickly go for a non-superhero movie called Captain Fantastic. Because people might think...
Great movie. Amazing movie.
Yeah, it's such a feel-good movie, and it has so many messages, and the performances are amazing, and there's just this last scene, which I can't talk about.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
But that last scene is just wow.
Magic.
Effing wow.
Yeah.
So watch it.
Youmna.
Oh, can it be recent that I saw? Or,
Yeah, sure.
Or do you want to...
No, it could be recent.
An only bit goodie. I just saw Spike Lee, Black Klansman.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah.
So bad.
It won
Big
the
time.
second best, the best Prix, the Grand Prix at
Yeah.
probably the best Spike Lee movie I've seen since Do the Right Thing.
Okay.
I think he's terrific. It's political. It's funny. There's a lot of Tarantino there.
Isn't Adam Driver in that movie?
And
as well?
Adam Driver's in it.
And Denzel Washington's son.
And Denzel Washington's son,
I wanna
who
see-
I'd never seen. I loved
Sweet.
that movie. So whoever, if it's in Australia, go. And
I've already seen it. It's amazing.
isn't it? So that would be the one that I'd recommend.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, we're gonna sound off our social media and where people can find you because we are officially done with our first roundtable. I'd love to have you guys back eventually for another one.
Oh, yeah.
Because this
wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. I know. But that's what happens when you have 1 hour.
We need popcorn.
So real quick, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do so at Alan Mahana and
Had.solo.
Clint.
Clint Maximus _Game Chasers. That's on Instagram. Have a look.
Okay, Youmna.
At Youmna Naufal.
Okay, and Bailey.
Breaking Banter on YouTube or Breaking_Banter on Twitter.
Awesome.
Perfect.
So, Bailey, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Have a wonderful day, and I know you have a party to get to, so.
I'm gonna head out and go to a nightclub because it's
Is it a
actually
Star Wars party?
Yeah.
No, it's a birthday. All right.
We just got back from
Thank
one,
you guys
so
so much.
yeah.
Yeah. Bye, Bailey. Bye. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. And thank you, Clint. Thank you, Youmna. This was an awesome
Yeah,
episode.
thank you so much, guys.
you're welcome.
Guys, next week we start our brand new evolution with Script2Screen News Hour on Saturday. It's going to be awesome. And then after that, we're going to start off with our Friday episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend.